Shalom to my brothers and sisters in the body of Yahushua HaMashiach. And today I bring you a word to give you more confirmation about Esau and Edom and his kingdom. Because this is what his kingdom and Satan and his fallen angels do not want you to believe or to know this truth that I'm about to share with you. For if the world find out that the Bible does line up with history, then many people will begin to believe that the Bible is true. So the title of this lesson today will be Esau and Edom. History confirms the word and their kingdom. Esau and Edom. History confirms the word and their kingdom. Okay. Now this is like a continuation of the Greek/Grecian kingdom is Esau kingdom, because when I go into the lesson, you will see how that also ties into this lesson. So if you have not watched that video, I do recommend, because then you can understand the history of the Greeks/Grecians and see how they tie into my brother's kingdom, who is Esau/Edom/Idumea/Roman. Okay, so let's open up this lesson with a word or with a scriptures or with some scriptures. Excuse my tongue. I do get things twisted. Let's turn to 2nd Ezra chapter 6, and we're going to read verse 7 through 9. And I will put this link in the description box so that way you can go back and read the whole chapter yourself. Make sure you click on the little picture of the 1611 Bible so you can also read the Bible summary. 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 7. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So to get more insight and understanding about why Esau kingdom is the end of the world and why Jacob kingdom is the beginning of the new world or the new kingdom of the new heaven and earth, I highly recommend that you watch all my videos that pertain to Esau and Edom, so you can understand the Bible prophecy, and also how you can understand how to recognize them today. For there is an ancient trait they was not able to get rid of when they mixed with the nations. So let us go to the next tab and get right to it. The book of Daniel, chapter 11, as well as 7 and 8. But right today, we're going to talk about chapter 11. Will confirm history. For when you understand what Daniel is saying, then you will understand that this prophecies that he was given does line up with history. So I'm going to read the chapter summary of Daniel 11 of the King James 1611. The overthrow of Persia by the king of Grecia. Leagues and conflicts between the kings of the south and of the north. The invasion and tyranny of the Romans. So it's very important that you understand this summary because it's giving you an outline. In the first verses, starting at verse 1, the Persians going to be overthrown by the king of Grecia. And then when we get to verse 5, we're going to read about the history between the leagues and the conflicts, which is battles between the kings of the south and of the north. And then when we get to verse 30, we're going to be going into the Roman kingdom, the invasion and tyranny of the Romans. So it's very important that you pay attention to that Bible summary, because The prophecy that Daniel is giving is not only ancient prophecies that has been fulfilled, but it's also dealing with today's prophecy that are still coming into their fullness. Now, I just want to bring you up to date. Now, you know, the Hebrew Israelites been through several captivities since the time they have been into the land of Canaan due to their disobedience. But then the captivities I'm about to go into are dealing with the major captivities. You're already aware of the ancient Babylonian captivities, which the prophets talked about, especially Esdras, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. And then after that empire was destroyed, then the Persian came. Okay? And now we're about to read how the Persian Empire is overthrown by the king of Grecia. So let us begin. And this lesson will probably have a part 2 because I don't want the videos to be too long. So that way you can receive this confirmation. Verse 1, Daniel chapter 11. Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. So I had to go to find out who is this Darius the Mede, and according to history, make sure I have the right one. Darius, it is Darius II. I'm not going to say every name because I will mispronounce it, okay? And he is the seed of the Medes and king over the realm of the Chaldeans. And we know the Chaldeans are the Babylonians. And I do say here to read Daniel chapter 9, verse 1. All right. And you can find more insight about his father in the book of Esther. Okay. And then I went back to trace their lineages to see how their empire was set up from Darius the second, and I put a range of dates because keep in mind I have to use what resources I came about. So if the dates are not exactly correct, forgive me, but I just had to use what I had to bring this out. So Darius is the great king of Persia and Pharaoh of Egypt, the son of Ataris. I can't say that word correctly, but you can see it on the screen. Who is the son of Xerxes the first, and you can see when they reigned. So Darius the second reign was 423 BC to 405/404 BC, and it's a question about what date they had for his death. So that gives you an idea about what period of time he reigned. Okay, let us go to verse 2. And now will I shew thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the fourth shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. So here below verse 2, I list the 4 kings of Persia. And bear with me with these names. I'm not good. But the first one was known as Artaxerxes. Forgive my tongue. I was going to say Darius II. And he reigned for a period from 404 to 358 BC. Okay. Then the second was, I'm going to try to pronounce one of his names, Ochus, who reigned from 358 BC to 338 BC. The third one was Ars, who reigned from 338 BC to 336 BC. And then the fourth one was Darius III, who reigned from 336 BC to 330 BC. Now, he does have another name that he goes by that the Greeks acknowledge him as. And by the Greeks, they call him Condomanus. All right. And he was the last king of the Persian Empire. And another name for their empire was the Achaemenid. Achaemenid. And Darius III was conquered by Alexander the Great. So those who watched that video about the Greeks slash Grecian kingdom, is Esau kingdom, that's where it started with Alexander the Great. He conquered that Persian empire. Okay. So then later on, it'll tie into my people because we'll fall into their captivity. In other words, we're gonna be under their kingdom. They're gonna be ruling over us. And then I mentioned here also the king of Media and the king of Persia. Read Daniel chapter 8, verse 1 through 7 and 20 are the two horns on the ram. So that's what they represent. The kings of Media and Persia represent the two horns on the ram in that chapter. So now you're seeing how history all ties into it. Okay, let's go to verse 3. And a mighty king shall stand up that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. So that mighty king was Alexander the Great. His full name is Alexander III of Macedon. He was born on the 20th or 21st of July, 356 BC in Pella, Macedon. And he died either on the 10th or the 11th of June, 323 BC at the age of 32 in Babylon. Now, in First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1, will confirm about their kingdom, and it talks about Alexander the Great too as well. And I will read this verse. First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, or Chittim, Chethiim. Sorry about this. Has smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes. And the Medes king was Darius III, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. Okay. So when he reigned, he said, he reigned as king. And these are the different kingdoms that Alexander the Great, conquered, because he conquered several lands. So in Macedonia, he reigned from 336 BC to 323 BC for about 13 years. As Pharaoh of Egypt, he reigned from 332 BC to 323 BC for about 9 years. For Persia, he reigned from 330 BC to 323 BC for 7 years. And in Asia, he reigned from 331 BC to 323 BC for about 8 years. Okay? And he is the great horn between the both goat eyes that is mentioned in Daniel chapter 8, verse 5 through 8, verse 21. So do you see how history is lining up with the word of the Most High? Let us keep going. Verse 4. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided towards the four winds of heaven, and not to his prosperity, nor according to his dominion, which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others besides those. So that did fulfill, my people. When Alexander the Great, that we all know about, when he died, his kingdom was divided. And I'm going to read First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare ruled every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who is also known as Antiochus the Great, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Now, the 137th year is 175 BC, and I'm going to try to pronounce this word, Seleucid Greek kingdom. And that kingdom reigned from 312 BC to 63 BC. This is very important because it's going to tie further into Daniel prophecy about the beast, okay? Now the kingdom was divided towards the four winds of heaven. So this is how they are divided, my people. The four kingdoms slash heads of the leopard. The first one was the Ptolemaic kingdom, which is Egypt. The second is the Seleucid kingdom, which is Asia/Syria. And remember, Asia does represent Turkey. The third one is the Pergamon kingdom, which is the Attaleid dynasty, and that includes Persia/Turkey. And then the fourth kingdom is the Antigonid dynasty, and that's known as Macedonian/Greek kingdom. And again, it supports the verse in Daniel chapter 7, verse 6, and chapter 8, verse 8 and 23. So here what I wrote here. The four kingdoms/beasts/kings of the book of Daniel for chapter 2, verse 23 through 45, 71 through 28, that may be 21 through 28, and chapter 8, verse 1 through 27 with Revelation 13. So the gold represent, my people, the Babylonians kingdom, and they are the lion with the eagle wings. The silver represents the Persian Medes, and they are the bear. The brass represents the Greeks, the leopard with the four heads. The four kingdoms/heads of the leopard, and I would have read that before. And you can pause the screen to write down how Alexander the Great kingdom was split into four kingdoms. Okay. Number 4, iron mixed with murray clay. The Romans, the beast in ancient times. The dreadful and terrible beast with great strength has iron teeth and nails of brass. The Greeks. So the Greeks represents the nails of brass that devoured and break in pieces. It stomps the residue with its feet. It's diverse from the other three beasts, has 10 horns, and the 11th horn has eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. The 11th horn uprooted 3 of the first horns. The restored beast that is mentioned in 2nd Ezra chapter 12, verse 8, the beast with 7 heads, 10 horns, with 10 crowns. Let me bring this up a little bit. The beast with 7 heads, 10 horns, with 10 crowns upon the horns, and the name of breastplate upon his head was like unto a leopard, has feet of a bear, a mouth of a lion, which you can find in Revelation 13, verse 1 through 3. This kingdom/beast will have Satan power, seat, and great authority, as written in Revelation 13:2, and consists of many empires and kingdoms, which we can see as written in Daniel chapter 2, verse 40 through 44, and chapter 7, verse 7 through 12. Later, another beast/kingdom rises with which exercises all the power of the beast. And we're talking about the Romans. Okay. So another kingdom gonna rise up that's gonna exercise the power of that other beast, which are the Romans, with the deadly wound that was healed. And if you know anything about history, you do know that the Roman Empire was brought down. Okay. But it has reestablished itself. This beast has 2 horns, and the 2 horns represent kings, like a lamb. Today, America is the ruler in this kingdom/beast and a supporter of Rome. It would be in this kingdom that the mark of the beast will be implemented. Read Revelation chapter 13, 11 through 18. America is the head in the middle of the 3 heads on the eagle in 2nd Ezra chapter 11, verse 4, 29 through 35, chapter 12, verse 23 through 28. The 2 other heads will be revealed in the following series of Daniel 11. So keep in mind, my people, this is based on what resources I had at the time to match up the prophecies with history, okay? So I'm just sharing with you what I have so far, okay? Let's go on further down. Some keywords that you want to keep in mind when you read Daniel's, especially the book of Daniel's. When you see 4 great beasts, it can represent 4 kings or kingdoms, such as Daniel 7:17. 4 beasts equals 4 kingdoms, such as Daniel 7:23. 10 horns of the 4th kingdom in Daniel 7 equals 10 kings in verse Daniel 7:24. 10 crowns upon the horns in Revelation 13 equals 10 kings of each horn, as written in Revelation 13:1. The little horn is the king that subdued the three kings of the 10 kings. That is written in Daniel chapter 7, verse 7 through 8, chapter 11, Daniel chapter 7, verse 7 through 8, 11 through 12, 23 and 23 through 25, those verses. And also Revelation chapter 13, 5 through 8. The mouth speaking great things and blasphemy is the Antichrist leading to the Antichrist. Is the Antichrist with an S leading to the Antichrist of the last time. Revelation chapter 13, 5 through 8, Daniel chapter 7, verse 20 through 27, 1 John chapter 2, verse 18. The four heads of the leopard are four kingdoms, as written in Daniel chapter 6, Daniel chapter 7, verse 6, and Daniel chapter 8, verse 22. Now, the seven heads of the beast in Revelation 13 equals seven kingdoms. Again, I'm going to list these scriptures so you can, follow up and study your spare time. Daniel chapter 7, verse 6, with Daniel chapter 8, verse 22, 2nd Ezra chapter 12, verse 23, and Revelation 13, 1. And also read 2nd Ezra chapter 11 and 12. Now, times and dividing a time equals 42 months or 3.5 years. The Great Tribulation, Matthew, I need to give you more insight about Matthew 24, verse 21 to 22, because the tribulation of Zion has started in 70 AD, okay, for my people. So when you read Matthew 24, it's also the book of Luke and the book of Mark, and John will confirm this, that the Hebrew Israelite tribulation started after 70 AD, because that's when the Romans come into play. And since that time, my people has been greatly oppressed. They have been going through slavery. Also, the prophecies in the Old Testament has repeated themselves. So, for example, when you read Genesis chapter 15, you're aware of my people going through captivity in ancient Egypt until the Amorites' time are fulfilled. Well, to parallel to that of today, modern day Babylon, modern day Egypt is America. Okay, my people. And they are the ones who have captured my people and enslaved them and even to this day, we think we are free, but we're not. You can see many of my people are being killed and oppressed and being treated unfairly. I'm talking about as a nation. I'm not talking about individual. I'm talking about as a nation. We are called by many bywords such as Negroes, nigger, black, African American, and the list is endless. But my people are the children of Israel, which can be confirmed by the prophecies written in Genesis and Deuteronomy chapter 28. Okay, so that's another little mystery for another video on that, so you can see where the tribulation of my people started, because it is written in 2nd Ezra that until the time of Zion affliction is fulfilled, that's when my Father would come back and visit the earth to bring his judgment. And we can see that in the signs today. So our 400-year of captivity is about ending. It started around 1615 when the Spaniards brought us over here first. It was about 476 of us who came over here to the Americas. And when you add 400 years to 1615, you get 2015. Now keep in mind, Jubilee starts in Tishri on the 10th day of 2015, and it would end on Tishri on the 9th day of 2016. And it's the Hebrew 7 months. So we're looking for great things to happen now, because our captivity is ending. And I know most of you are more familiar with the English captivity, but look at the Spaniards' captivity, because they was the first one who brought my people over here to America, which is also called which is also called Arsareth, as written in 2nd Ezra. Okay. Also read 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 18 through 19, Daniel chapter 7, verse 21 to 22, verse 23 to 27, Revelations, verse 13, Revelation chapter Revelations chapter 13, verse 5 to 10, chapter 12, verse 14 through 17, and chapter 11, verse 3 through 19. Okay? Now, to continue for 42 months in Revelation 13 means to make war for 42 months. And you can find it in Revelation 13:5 and see the precepts in number 9 above. Now, the lion of 2nd Ezra, chapter 11, verse 37 through 46, and chapter 12, verse 31, represents the tribe of Judah, which is Yahushua. Yahushua is that lion. Okay, my people? Read Genesis chapter 49, verse 8 to 12. And also, I believe it's mentioned in Revelation. But we know this time, see, the first time he came into the world, he was the lamb because he was to sacrifice himself so we can be forgiven for our sins and so we can be grafted into the body of Yahushua, which is the spiritual temple of Yahuwah, to become the sons and daughters of Yahuwah, to bring us back to what? To bring us back to the status of Adam, for Adam was the son of Yahuwah. Watch the video about the two rams of heaven and earth, okay, to get more insight on what I'm saying. So Yahushua is the lamb. Yahushua is a lion in 2nd Ezra chapter 11. So this time when he come back, he's not coming back as a lamb, my people. He's coming back as a lion to carry out his father's judgment in the earthly realm and to establish righteousness in the earthly realm, to rebuild the tabernacle of David, in other words, to establish the throne of David upon this earth, in other words, the kingdom, the new eternal kingdom. Okay, so no longer my brother Esau will be ruling, Jacob will be ruling. And this is the order: Yahushua, the nation of Israel, and then the Gentile nations below. Okay, but this time the world gonna be ruled in righteousness, and evil will no longer persist. So now we're gonna start on the battles between the Ptolemy dynasty, which is Egypt, versus the Seleucid kingdom, which are the Greeks. Okay, so we'll start on that. So now we are dealing with Daniel 11 with the sun. We're dealing with the leagues and conflicts between the kings of the south and of the north. Okay, so now we're dealing with that. So now, if you understand history, these are two kingdoms that came out of Alexander the Great kingdom. So we have the Ptolemies because they was the ruler over Egypt versus the Seleucid. They are the Greeks from the lineage of Antiochus. Okay, so we're gonna read about them and see about the the leagues that they made between one another and the conflicts that was between them. Starting at verse 5. And the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion. And his dominion shall be a great dominion. So we know south represent Egypt, as well as we think about Sheba, which is Yemen. See Matthew chapter 12, verse 42 for proof south is Egypt. Okay? And I'm going to read that for you. Matthew chapter 12, verse 42. The queen of the south shall rise up in the judgment with this generation, and shall condemn it, for she came from the uttermost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. And behold, a greater than Solomon is here. So some precepts for that is 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 1, 2 Chronicles chapter 9, verse 1, Luke chapter 11, verse 31. Note, we know the queen of the south is Queen Sheba according to the scriptures, as she ruled Egypt and Yemen, which is Sheba. Okay, Sheba is South Arabia, the kingdom of Saba, and the home of the Sabaeans. The country of Sheba was called Arabia Felix by the Romans, but today Sheba is called Yemen. Its capital is Marib. Today it's called Sanana, which was found by Shem, Noah's son. Okay, let's see here. All right, king of the south was Ptolemy the first, Soter, first king of Egypt, the first king of the Ptolemaic dynasty. So that was the person who established that kingdom after Alexander the Great in Egypt. Now, one of his princes is Ptolemy the third. I'm not going to try to say that name because my tongue will twist it up. But he was the third king of the Ptolemaic kingdom and son of Ptolemy the second, Philadelphus, and Arsinoe first. Now he reigned from 246 BC to 222 BC and was the third king of the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt. Now under his rulership, the kingdom reached the height of its power. The Ptolemaic dynasty began to decline under Ptolemy the fourth, Philopator, son of Ptolemy the third. I'm not going to try to say that last name. Okay. Now his children with Bernice of Syrian was Arsinoe, Ptolemy the fourth, Philopator, maybe Lysimachus, Alexander, Magus, who was killed by the orders of Ptolemy the fourth, and Bernice, who died a year later after her birth. Okay. And when you begin to study their kingdoms and about their family, you begin to realize they married one another. They married their close brothers, sisters, cousin, very close. And this was dealing with all four kingdoms. You know, they were intermarried with one another. Okay, when you study their history. History note: Ptolemy the first, Soter, first king of Egypt, the first king of the Ptolemaic dynasty, and Macedonian general that was under Alexander the Great and was the founder of the Ptolemaic kingdom. He ruled from 323 BC to 283 BC. Arsinoe of Macedon was his mother, but his father was unknown. Some sources may say he was the son of Lagus, a Macedonian noble, or son of Philip II of Macedon, father of Alexander the Great. And we know in history that Alexander the Great father, and according to history, his mother said that he was not by Philip. She would often make claims that he was by a deity, which can probably explain the blonde hair, white skin, and blue eyes combination. Okay, let's keep reading. He was known as Ptolemy Lagids and was born 367 BC and died in 283 BC. And then I list the name of his children, but we can skip over that. And you can take time to pause the scheme to get that. Now, verse 6. And in the end of years, they should join themselves together. That's talking about the king of the south and the king of the north. That's Egypt, and that's the Greeks, who are, ruling over, that's dealing with the Seleucid kingdom. So they shall join themselves together, for the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. But she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand, nor his arm, but she shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that begot her, and he that strengthened her in these times. So some key words here for this verse, so we can get understanding what this verse is talking about. We know the south is Egypt, the north is Greek, or the Seleucid kingdom. Now the key words is in the end of years pertaining to their kingdoms, okay? So the king of the north at that time was Antiochus II, Theos, and the king of the south at that time was Ptolemy II, Philadelphus, okay, of Egypt. And he was the son of the founder of the Ptolemaic kingdom, who is Ptolemy the first, Soter. Now the king's daughter of the south, and when that verse referenced she, was Bernice. She was the sister of Ptolemy III. Okay, so they made an agreement. A peace treaty was sealed with their marriage, and the begotten children of their marriage would be the heirs of the Seleucid throne. Okay, history note. Antiochus II married Bernice and exiled his wife Laodice to Ephesus. Their marriage was to confirm the treaty and the peace with Ptolemy II, ending the second Syrian war. After Ptolemy II died, Antiochus put away Bernice and took up with Laodice, his wife. Later, Antiochus II was poisoned by his wife Laodice in 246 BC. Then later, Laodice ordered the murder of Bernice, her infant son, and her attendants. So Bernice and her son and her attendants were killed by Laodice, which was the wife of Antiochus II. Okay. Seleucus II, son of Antiochus II and Laodice, took his father's place with his brother. Antiochus, I'm not going to say that last name, but you can see it, being a co-ruler in Sardis. Okay? Do you see how history is fulfilling that prophecy? So verse 7. But out of a branch of her roots shall one stand up in his estate. Talking about Bernice now. So somebody's going to stand up from her lineage, which shall come with an army and shall enter into the force of the king of the north. And the king of the north is the Seleucid kingdom, and shall deal against them and shall prevail. So a branch of her roots or a relative was Ptolemy III, the brother of Bernice, okay, of Syria. Oh, I'm sorry, the brother of Bernice, Syria, and the son of Ptolemy II, Philadelphus, avenged his sister and nephew death. He declared war and invaded the Seleucid Empire, which led to the Third Syrian War, as known as the Laodicean War, or the War of the War of Laodice. I'm sorry, Laodice. Laodice was captured and killed in this war. In addition, there was a civil war between Laodice's sons, which Laodice supported Antiochus H revolt against his brother. The civil war between the brothers lasts for 17 years. Now here go the war results. So in 241 BC, Ptolemy III won the battle and gained new territories on the northern coast of Syria, including Seleucia, Perea, the port of Antioch. Besides wealth, he was able to recover many Egyptian works of art. I'm sorry. Let me read that over again because of my tongue. Besides wealth, he was able to recover many Egyptian works of art that were stolen when the Persians conquered Egypt. Let's go to verse 8. And shall also carry captive in Egypt their guards with their princes and with their precious vessel of silver and of gold. And he shall continue more years than the king of the north. And the king of the north again is dealing with Greece, the Seleucid Empire. Now in that verse, he represent Ptolemy III. And I'm going to skip over his reign years, so I'm just going to read the highlights. And he was the third king of the Ptolemy dynasty in Egypt. Now he only lived 3 years past Seleucus II. So Seleucus died in 225 BC, and he reigned from 246 BC to 225 BC. And I put a note here, see the war results that we just read in verse 7. So in 2 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1 through 2 and 32, there were Jews in Egypt. So that's how my people got into Egypt. Okay? It started with the Alexander Great Empire. Most of the Israelites were taken as captives into Egypt by Alexander Great. And when Ptolemy I Soter, the son of Lagus, attacked Judea, Jerusalem, places near Mount Gerizim, sorry about my tongue, and Samaria, who are non-Israelites, the Samaritans. Later, they were set free and made citizens with privileges like the Macedonians by Ptolemy II Philadelphus. Other Israelites moved to Egypt, for Ptolemy II was offering liberty, and the soil of the land was good, resulting in many synagogues to be built in Alexandria. As time passed, when Ptolemy VI Philometor reigned, the contentions between the Israelites and Samaritans grew due to their differences of their way of life. The Israelites kept the covenant that was given to their forefathers and offered their sacrifices to Holy Temple in Jerusalem, while the Samaritans take their offerings to the temple in Mount Gerizim. Gerizim. Okay? And the work of Josephus give great details, as well as the book of Maccabees, and also with the history book of the Kings and Chronicles about the Samaritans and the Israelites. Okay? Verse 9. So the king of the south shall come into his kingdom and shall return into his own land. So the king of the south is dealing with Egypt, okay? King of the south is Ptolemy the third, and he reigned from 246 BC to 222 BC. And the kingdom in this verse they was talking about again is the Ptolemy dynasty. The land is Egypt, okay? Now, I list here Ptolemy III sons/descendants, but this pause that screen so you can read it yourself. But I want to keep going to verse 10. But his sons shall be stirred up and shall assemble a multitude of great forces, and one shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Then shall he return and be stirred up even to his fortress. So this verse, when it talks about his sons, the sons of the king of the north, which is the Seleucid kingdom, and they are Seleucus III Soter and Antiochus III the Great. Seleucus III is the eldest and ruled the throne from 225 BC to 223 BC. He was killed by the members of his army in Anatolia and Natolo. I'm sorry, Anatolo. My tongue. I'm sorry. Anatolia, while on a campaign against Attalus first of Pergamon. Antiochus III succeeded his brother. Okay? So remember, Antiochus III, which is the Great, is the father of Antiochus Epiphanes, that wicked root that is talked about in 1 Maccabees chapter 1. But let's keep reading. And in that verse, when it says one, and it says, and one shall certainly come, it's talking about Antiochus III, the Great, in the fourth Syrian war, which is called the Battle of Raphia. After securing control over Media and Persia, Antiochus III turned his eye towards Syria and Egypt. He recaptured Seleucia, Perea, the cities in Phoenicia and Tyre, but did not invade Egypt. Instead, Antiochus waited in Phoenicia for over a year while consolidating his new territories and listening to the Potomac Kingdom diplomatic proposals. Okay? Verse 11. And the king of the south shall be moved with choler, and shall come forth and fight with him, even with the king of the north. And he shall set forth a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into his hand. So the king of the south in this verse is Ptolemy IV Philopator. Choler means to be angered, and I forgot to mention his reign. And he reigned, Ptolemy IV reigned from 221 BC to 204 BC. So the king of the north was Antiochus III the Great. Now this is what happened at the Battle of Raphia. While Antiochus waited during that year, Ptolemy minister Sosibius started to recruit and train an army. The army was recruited from the local Greek population and the native Egyptians, which consists of at least 30,000 natives, as Phalangites. In 217 BC, Ptolemy defeated Antiochus and won the Battle of Raphia. So he regained control over Coel, Syria, but he did not advance further into Antiochus' empire, leaving Seleucia Pir under Antiochus' dominion. Later, the idea of using the native Egyptians in their army would affect the Ptolemaic kingdom stability. Verse 12. And when he had taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by it. So he in verse 12 is talking about Ptolemy the fourth Philopator, and this is a history note in pertaining to that verse. Later, the kingdom weakened due to the economic problems and rebellions by the natives. In the Egyptian revolt, the natives established their own kingdom in Upper Egypt, which was reconquered around 185 BC by the Ptolemies. Under Ptolemy the fifth Epiphanes, who reigned 204 to 181 BC. See the Battle of Raphia note above. Okay, let's go to verse 13. So the king of the north shall return, and shall set forth a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come after certain years with a great army with much riches. So the king of the north that is talking about in this verse is Antiochus III the Great, the son of King Seleucus II. Okay, and he is the sixth ruler of the Seleucid kingdom. So in First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 16, it says this. Now when the kingdom is talking about the Seleucid empire that was established from 312 BC to 63 BC, established by Seleucus the first Nicator, and predecessor was Alexander the fourth of Macedon, who also known as Alexander the Great. Okay. So now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, and that Antiochus is Antiochus Epiphanes, he, which is Antiochus III the Great, thought to reign over Egypt that he might have dominion of the two realms. So his father wanted to reign over the two realms, which was Egypt and Asia, my people. Okay. Wherefore, which is verse 17, wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen, and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. And that person was Ptolemy the fifth Epiphanes. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. Okay, so you see how the Bible's lining up with history. It's just bringing everything into play. So you must get that King James 1611 version, because you're going to need that Apocrypha. So Antiochus III the Great, in the fifth Syrian war, which is called the Battle of Pamium, there was a war between Egypt and Macedonia. So Antiochus III the Great and Philip V of Macedon made an agreement to divide the Ptolemy overseas possessions. So in 198 BC, the Battle of Panium resulted Antiochus III to receive Coel, Syria, which includes Judea. Okay, that's dealing with my people land. Remember, they divided Israel into province. So that lower province was called Judea. And just for FYI, you have the province of Galilee, Samaria, and then Judea. Okay. So in 195 BC, to keep peace, Antiochus III gave his daughter Cleopatra I to Ptolemy V Epiphanes, son of Ptolemy IV Philopator. Okay. And leaving Coel, Syria, in Antiochus III possession. Now, this is a surprising history note about this. Antiochus III, first son Antiochus, not Antiochus IV Epiphanes, co-ruled with his father. He reigned from 210 BC to 193 BC and was present at the Battle of Panium in 200 BC. He lived from 221 BC to 193 BC. So this is why we probably never heard of him, because he didn't live for a long period of time. All right, verse 14. And in those times they shall many stand up against the king of the south. Also the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish division, but they shall fall. So the king of the south was Ptolemy V Epiphanes at that time. And the ones that he's talking about in many stand up against the king of the south was dealing with the Egyptian revolt, Antiochus III, and Philip V of Macedon, and Jews. See verse 12 and 13 notes. So just go back when you get some time to video, and review verse 12 and 13 notes. And the robbers of thy people, it was talking about the robbers of Israel, was the Ptolemy rulers. Okay, let's go to verse 15. So the king of the south shall come and cast up a mount and take the most fenced cities, and the arms of the south shall stand, neither his chosen people, neither shall there be any strength to withstand. King of the north in this verse is Antiochus III the Great. The south is Egypt. The arm means power or strength. So Antiochus shall come up, cast up a mount, take the most fenced cities, and the arms of the south, so basically his army, okay, shall not withstand, or his kingdom shall not withstand, neither his chosen people, neither shall there be any strength to withstand it. So when Antiochus III attack, they won't be able to withstand him. Verse 16. But he that come against him shall do according to his own will, and none shall stand before him. And he shall stand in the glorious land, which by his hand shall be consumed. Now he says own will is talking about Antiochus III the Great. The one that talks about him is Ptolemy V Epiphanes, and the glorious land is dealing with Jerusalem and Israel. You can read Daniel chapter 8, verse 9. Precepts is Psalms 48:2, and Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 6. Verse 17. He shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him. Thus shall he do, and he shall give him the daughter of women, corrupting her, but she shall not stand on his side, neither be for him. So in this verse, he is represented to Antiochus III the Great. The whole kingdom is referring to Egypt and the Seleucid Empire, which is confirmed as First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 16 through 19. Now that daughter that this verse is talking about, daughter of women, is talking about Cleopatra the first, Cleopatra the first, Sarah, and him/his side is talking about Antiochus III, great daughter. Do not work in his favor, for she remained faithful to her husband. And here's a history note. There was war between Egypt and Macedonia, so Antiochus III the Great and Philip V of Macedon made an agreement to divide the Ptolemaic overseas possession. So Antiochus III received Kol El Syria, which includes Judea. So to keep peace, Antiochus III gave his daughter Cleopatra to Ptolemy V Epiphanes, the son of Ptolemy IV Philopator. After the death of Ptolemy V, Cleopatra I became the sole ruler of Egypt, and amidst her husband's recent plans of warring against the Seleucid kingdom, which was under Seleucus IV reign, which is her brother. So around 176 BC, Cleopatra I died. Okay. Verse 18. After this shall he turn his face unto the islands, and shall take many. But a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Without his own reproach, he shall cause it to turn upon him. He in this verse is Antiochus III the Great. The prince that is talking about is Philip V of Macedon. After his defeat with the Romans in 197 BC, he supported the Romans against Antiochus III during 192 to 189 BC. Rome awarded Philip V with setting his son Demetrius free, and they forgave the remaining tribute that Philip had to pay. The Roman-Syrian War. Antiochus seized the coast towns that belonged to the remnant of the Potomac overseas dominions and the independent Greek cities. He became an enemy of the Roman Republic, for he saw himself as the champion of Greek freedom against Roman dominion, and was supported by Hannibal Barca, the Punic Carthaginian military commander. Hannibal was the military advisor to Antiochus III in his war against Rome. Antiochus lost to the Romans, which the Treaty of Apamea in 188 BC was established. Antiochus had to abandon Europe and all of Asia west of the Taurus. There were other stipulations listed in the treaty regarding elephants, warships, payment for the war costs, hostages, recruiting, and etc. And the provinces of the Seleucid Empire that were recovered by Antiochus went back to their independence. So when you read the history about the Greek kingdom under Antiochus with his part, you begin to find out more about these Romans, because their ways of doing things still haven't changed. You can still see it evident today. But let us keep reading. So in this area here, I said read Maccabees, First Maccabees chapter 8, verse 5 through 8. So let us go to verse 19. And this will wrap up on this part 1, my people. Then he shall turn his face towards the foot of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found. So in this verse, it's talking about Antiochus III the Great. And this is the history note. In 187 BC, Antiochus III was killed for pillaging a temple of Baal, a Babylonian temple at El Lemmaus, Persia. So that's what happened to Antiochus III. I'm going to scroll down so you can see some of my resources. I went to a lot of resources to get some of these things. So as I'm scrolling down, you can take your screen, to pause it so you can see about some of these resources. But you can see how the book of Daniel is just lining up with history. It's just lining up. So this will conclude part 1. Click on part 2 for the rest of this lesson with Daniel chapter 11. Because as we had just went over, it confirms history. It lines up. So if the word of Yahuwah lines up with history, we know the Bible is real. So judgment is coming to all nations. This is why it's so important for you to receive salvation and to be baptized in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. And to receive salvation, read Romans chapter 10, verse 8 through 13. For no one can enter into the kingdom of heaven without being reborn again. That is a requirement, my people. Preach the gospel to all nations, for the kingdom of heaven at hand. For we know this is the season for Yahushua HaMashiach to return, my people. This is not a joke. The signs are here and it's evident. And I thank you for taking the time for watching part 1. And don't forget to watch part 2. Shalom.